Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Relocate with Nat. I am Nat, and I am so excited. Charles is here, and he's already started talking, so I don't want to hold too on. Charles and I met at one of our networking events that we hold the third week of every month in Cabarete. So if you're watching this and you're on the north coast of the Dominican Republic, you want to join us for that meeting. I will link the next meeting into the description, and you'll be able to join us at Lifestyles. Charles, thanks for doing this with me.
It's a pleasure. Really,
Okay, so say what you just said. You said traveling is?
people come to the Dominican Republic, or they go on cruises, or they go on whatever's on their bucket list, and they think traveling is so they can see new things.
Yeah.
Traveling is to get new eyes.
New eyes, yes. And were your eyes opened when you decided to stay in the DR?
Well, there's this little booklet here
Yeah.
that used to be put out called Cabarete.
Yeah.
All right? There's a few things in here that if you come here, it's part of the things that we're meant to help change.
Yeah.
Not here, any third world country. It says,
Oh, but wait, do you
Okay.
consider this a third world country?
absolutely.
Do you really? Not developing?
The Ministry of Tourism would like to call it developing.
Okay, that's fair.
And if you want to call it developing, yes, but we can get into that later.
Okay, later. Maybe that'll be another video. Go ahead. What is it you're going to share?
So this little magazine is put out by a school that trains only women. They only take young girls.
Okay.
And this is some of the reasons. When 10% more girls go to school, the country's gross developing product increases by 3%. When a girl in a developing world receives 7 years of education, she marries 4 years later and has 2.2 fewer children.
Fewer. Yes.
An extra year of primary school education boosts eventual wages by 10 or 20%. An extra year of secondary school adds 15 to 25%.
Wow.
If all women had a primary education, early births could fall by 10%. If all women had a secondary education, early births could fall by 60%.
Wow.
We're here to make a difference, not
Yeah.
check something off our bucket list.
That's right. And I think that everybody comes here, decides to stay here or relocate here for different reasons. That's what I've come across.
Yes.
But you've been coming to the island for at least 15 years, you told me, in different capacities.
Yeah, the island, both Hispaniola, both Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But I also traveled all around the world,
Yeah.
over 65 different countries. So this island wasn't different than
Yeah.
most of the other places that I've been to. That's why I say it's still a developing country, even though the government says it's not. And don't take my word for it. I mean, just look at something simple as the exchange rate. Watch the exchange rate after the last 6 months. The United States economy is in deep trouble.
Yeah.
There is no money. We just print money in the United States. And yet, if you look at the peso compared to the dollar goes up every day, every week. So what used to be 54 or 55 pesos to the dollar, we're now over 60, 56, almost 57. So if the economy of the Dominican Republic is so good and the United States economy is so bad, why
Is there?
so much difference? Why
Yeah,
is the
there a
dollar
gap?
still
Yeah.
going up?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make economic sense.
No.
We're not knowing the whole truth.
Oh, well, there's a lot of truths that we don't know.
Yeah.
But one of the things people love to know is like, why do we decide to stay here? Or why did you decide that you make this your home?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been to a lot of different places. I find 3 places that I thought I was eventually going to live. One was Greece, one was South Africa, and one was British Columbia.
Oh, okay.
All three of those places are very, very expensive to live.
They are.
One of the things I liked about the Caribbean, well, first of all, as an oceanographer, I studied the Gulf and Caribbean for 50 years. And the other thing was, it was close to the United States, that if I wanted to get back to the United States, I could.
That's what we liked
Whatever
about the
reason.
option too, yeah.
Yes,
Getting
that's
back
right.
to Canada was easy.
Yeah, it's not so easy with the immigration rules and the things like that that have
It
gone
isn't
now.
as affordable as I thought it could be.
Yes.
I find that the airline tickets are quite pricey for a 4-hour flight. That, you know, but we did pick the convenience of the North Coast because it has the airport nearby. I know people will say to me, oh, go to Santo Domingo, go to Santiago, but you know, Santo Domingo is a 4-hour bus or car ride, and sometimes it's time, you have to measure what's important, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So I generally just go out of Puerto Plata and pay the little bit extra for the convenience.
Yes, and living on the North Coast certainly has that peace of mind. It does have the beauty. It has actually the unspoiled beauty. I mean, you can go to beaches that haven't been developed. Not so much anymore as they get developed. And
There's a lot going on around here. A lot.
It's like that song, you know, they covered paradise and built a parking lot.
Yeah.
And I there's going to be consequences for that eventually. I don't know if it's 10 years or 20 years, but we live on an island, and if you wreck the dunes and you wreck the beach to put up condos, you know, Mother Nature doesn't like that.
And she can be fierce, as we know.
And
except
she will.
for this tropical storm Franklin that we didn't get hit very hard over here.
Yeah.
I mean, the country did shut down technically.
Yeah.
I was a bit disappointed. And then the very next Monday,
Yeah.
we had a huge storm. It was like worthy storm.
There are geographical and geological reasons that happened. And as an oceanographer, maybe someday I could come and give a 5-minute
I would love that.
summary about the Caribbean, where we live,
Yeah.
and why we get or why we don't get hurricanes.
Yeah.
Or any other things about what's
But
going to
you
happen on the
would
beach.
would you say that mountain ridge that we have protects us somewhat?
It's not, yes and no.
Yes and no?
It's not the mountain ridge, it's the Puerto Rican Trench.
Okay.
Hurricanes need warm water,
Yes.
and the warm water gets evaporated by the air, and it circulates as it goes up. And the warmer the water, the faster the evaporation. Well, whenever it hits cold water, that stops.
Yeah.
And so the hurricanes lose their force because they come across that Puerto Rican Trench first.
Okay.
And that's what loses their velocity. It doesn't lose their velocity over the Dominicana or over Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But after that, they do.
It slows down a bit. Yeah.
And then you have the tropical and equatorial currents, and there's an equatorial countercurrent.
That's a whole video, I feel like.
And that, and one's warm water and one's cold water. So if it starts in the warm water and it slides a little bit because of the currents, and then
But so in layman terms, the south side of the island gets hit harder than the north side, though.
very good. Sorry.
No, you don't
I
have to
mean
apologize. I love
don't mean
it.
to technical.
I love it, the technical stuff, but it just, for people, so because often people ask me, why did you pick the north side? And we said, well, when we did some research, we found that a lot of the storms don't hit this side of the island as much as on the south side, right? We always hear about Punta Cana getting hit harder than any other side. And when you have a family, like we have a young daughter, that was one of the things we wanted to make sure of, that, there was some sense of security and safety. And I could tell my father, we'll be okay, Dad, because when I remember when I worked on cruise ships for many years, my dad was like, it's hurricane season. And I'd be like, it's okay, Dad, the ship has this crazy satellite system, and they will go around the hurricane. there's technology now that measures that, you know, so we don't have to worry too much about it. So what are some of the things, so obviously you've settled here. What are your loves of the North Coast? Like, do you have any like things that you really are happy about or that you enjoy here?
I think the easiest way I can say it is that the good news, it's like the wild, wild west.
You're not the first one to say it.
There are no rules, right?
Yes.
And the bad news is it's like the wild, wild west. There are no rules. And so if you want to live here, you got to keep a low profile. You got to keep your head down. You don't have to follow the rules, whether it's custom rules or immigration rules or anything else, because you can always pay people off. I hate to say that, but that's the way it works. There are no rules. But at the same time, you want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You want to get your cedula. You want to get. We hear in the United States all of those illegal, or that's not the right word anymore, undocumented immigrants. Well, you know, there's a lot of people like that around. But part of the reason is because it's so difficult to go ahead and do things legally.
Yeah.
And that's what stops people. How it's going to change in the future, you know, who knows?
Who knows? Absolutely.
The government turns its head because it likes tourism. But, you know, there are so many resources that the government does not try to try to develop.
So does that mean, what are the things that you're not a big fan of? Is that it's the Wild Wild West?
I think if you have medical conditions,
Okay.
it is
It can be trickier.
yes, it is you take a risk. If you're older and you have medical conditions, it's hard to get medical insurance.
Yeah.
And so healthcare, many people stay here when they're younger and leave when they get older because of it.
Yeah. And there are, I mean, I've heard fantastic stories of medical people who've had, I mean, we've had our own experience actually with my husband. And then there's people I've heard not so great stories.
Yeah. Same way with car insurance and any of those kind of things. Whether you're buying a car, it's twice as expensive here as in the United States. Be prepared for that. Car insurance, you have to make sure you have the right car insurance.
Yeah.
They have car insurance where you can get a policy that says if you get thrown in jail, you don't have to go to jail, you go to a hotel. You got to make sure you get that, pay the extra for that. So there are those little things that are really important. When you buy a house, you have to make sure that you get all the insurance papers. Don't use this. Don't use the same
And would you agree that before you buy a house, you should come down and see the house?
Come down and not only see a house, but live here for a year. See if
before you buy a house?
Yeah.
Not everybody is a fan of those words, but I like to say them because I think it's really important, because when you decide to move somewhere, I mean, if you were to move somewhere else, you'd probably want to try it out first before, you know, because some people, this isn't for them. Not everybody, you know, is in love with island life.
Another one of those little wild, wild west things.
Yeah.
There are no such thing as pesky building codes.
Yes, but you still could get an inspector. You could still have somebody come inspect the house to make sure it's sound.
Yeah.
And if you need an inspector, I have a couple, so you can always get in touch with me.
The concrete blocks aren't the same. There are little numbers on the on concrete, and it's not the same as a concrete in the United States, and it disintegrates. So unless you put an additive into the concrete that makes it stick, you know, it's like one of those things that we used to know. Throw it against the wall, and if it sticks,
you're good.
You're good, right? Well, you got to do that to your concrete.
So I feel like you've already given us tons of wisdom. Do you have any other wisdom to share with folks that if they decide they want to come and visit or stay or even consider living here?
I just have a minute. I want to make sure I thought.
I gave
know
Charles
that-
notes.
Yeah.
I gave him questions before we met.
So,
If you have any questions for Charles or myself, make sure that you drop them in the comments, or let us know what you think about this video, because it's really important for future content to know what we can give you. I should tell you that I'm living in my new place. We moved just a few days ago to the beautiful Villas Maribela here in Cabarete near Kite Beach. Very excited to be here. We'll be showing you that in just a little while. What do you got for me, Charles?
yes. Utilities.
Oh, yes. The words of wisdom?
You have to have a backup inverter.
Yeah,
You have to have a cistern.
yeah,
You have to have a generator, quite frankly.
so if you're gonna find a rental, make sure they have those things.
If you have a house,
Yeah.
you need those.
Yeah,
Absolutely. If for no other reason, if during a storm or a hurricane, the power goes out for a week, you're stuck.
yeah.
So, yeah,
And no electricity here. I mean, people do it, but it's tough. Like, I know my cleaning lady, they don't have air conditioning.
Yeah.
I can imagine how hot it is.
I don't have air conditioning either.
Oh, don't?
I just have a fan and I say,
You're okay with that?
no.
Oh.
But I have to learn to adjust. It
Yeah.
would be nice to have air conditioning, but I say, you know, I want to live under these conditions, and if you have air conditioning and then you go out, then it's hard to adjust. We have
Yeah.
it in the car, but
Yeah.
not in our house. Yeah, I'd like to have it, but and we're all plumbed for it, but
Okay.
but I don't. But yeah, to have those backups, and the reason
Yeah.
why it goes back to that developing third
Yeah.
world country things. We do not have an
They're not as developed in some of the infrastructure
infrastructure
here.
is
Yeah.
the word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the plumbing, like, you know, the whole flushing of the toilet.
Yeah.
What you can and can't put down the toilet. And,
Yeah.
and you think in 2023, that would be more developed, but unfortunately it is not.
And a simple thing about building, especially if you're building your own, you have your sewage and you have an elbow where there's a turn. Well, if you have this 90-degree elbow, everything gets stuck there because you lose the momentum of
Yeah.
the flow. You need to have a curved elbow so that you keep the
The flow
momentum
going.
going. Otherwise, what happens, because we have hard water here, is all of
build
that
up, yeah.
stuff calcifies.
Yeah.
And then it all has to be dug up.
Yeah, I just cleaned my shower head because it was all calcified, and I cleaned it and it was fine. Now it's working perfectly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But do that underground, and it's a
It's
problem.
tougher, yeah.
And it
and
all
with
ends
older
up in your
buildings,
bathroom.
yeah, I think the people who are building now are building a bit more smart. You know, people are coming in and having better. I don't want to quote me, but there's infrastructure that's a little bit better.
A little bit better.
But there's room for improvement.
I-
So if you have any questions for us, comments, please drop them. I already mentioned it. I'm going to drop Charles' information too in the description. If you have any questions for him, you'll be able to reach out to him. If you are looking to relocate but you're not sure how to get started, the calendar link will be there as well, so you can book a free call with me and we can discuss what that looks like for you, what steps you need to take to make it happen. But whatever you choose to do, I hope you have an incredible day. Thank you, Charles, for doing this with me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always, and the networking group that Nat has is absolutely phenomenal, and it's a good way not to just meet people, but to get solutions to questions
Yeah.
that you have that
Yeah.
are way more inclusive than a short interview. And
Yeah,
it's-
and we did it because we want people to grow here.
Yeah.
People to live and grow and be.
And you get honest answers, and everyone is sincere.
Yeah. See you soon in the next episode. Bye for now.